Welcome back to another edition of the Queer Profits Podcast. I'm Diane Conklin, I'm your host, and we're going to have some fun today. But before we get to that, just a really quick reminder, we're always about three pillars here at Queer Profits. They are inclusion, community, and growth. And I know we're going to get involved in some of that today as we talk to my special guest. I'm really excited to do this one with Sammie Baker. So Sammy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and we'll jump in.
Sure. Diane, thank you so much for having me on here. It's an honor to be part of your podcast, to be part of your movement. I love everything, inclusion, community, growth. I mean, what is life without that, right? My name is Sammie Baker. I am the co-owner. My wife and I actually own Strength Rewired. Strength Rewired is an online wellness community for women all over the United States. We help women create balance in their lives and consistencies by introducing different types of movement, exercise, and kind of shaking up their exercise, their nutrition routines as well.
Perfect. And so let's talk a minute about that, because I think when you and I originally talked, you really didn't have much of a presence online, and you guys have sort of shifted in 2020 and beyond into sort of an online business. So talk a little bit about kind of where you were before the pandemic and the things that you've done to sort of modify and change your business to continue to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a new playing field for us, this whole online thing. I'm sure it is for so many different people. My wife and I, we owned a brick and mortar, a group personal training studio, and based out of Long Island, New York. And it was great while it lasted. It was great while it was there. And then, of course, we got smacked with this pandemic. And on March 17th, we were forced to close our doors and transition everything online and make that shift. And it was sink or swim at that point, just like anybody else. By the way, is that me on the background? Do you hear?
It's you. It's not me.
1 second. I don't know who that is. Sorry about that, Diane.
It's all good. It's all good.
Make sure we're clean. Closing out all my tabs. Monday morning things, you know?
You never know when a visitor pops up, right?
Yeah. Seriously. All right. I still hear it, but...
Yeah, me too.
And it's louder. Yeah. That's not me over here. I cleared everything. All right. Sorry about that. Should we restart that?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I paused it, so we're good.
Okay, awesome. All right. I'll pick up where we left off here. So yeah, we had to transition. We had to shift over to an online business. We had a brick and mortar personal training studio. And then, at first we were doing all of our trainings online, kind of just like everybody else was doing the live Zoom. But the thing is that, funny enough, Diane, this is something that we've always wanted to transition into. We just never knew how our clients would take it, pre-pandemic, of course. And the truth is, I was scared. I was afraid to tell my clients that I saw, 3 times a week. I was afraid to tell them, hey, what if we were to do everything online? If you would have said that back then, it was almost like, wait, what? Like, no. But I had this vision of being able to connect, make deeper connections with people online, weirdly enough, because when you have that access with someone, you can program for them. Everything kind of remains the same, but I'm able to provide more information from them. I'm able to provide them deeper resources with nutrition and fitness. I'm able to check in with them multiple times a day, every single day, in a way that I was not able to do in person. So it actually ended up working out phenomenally for all of us, and our clients are seeing incredible results online.
Yeah, it's interesting. You and I have a similar, background in the fitness world, but um, and a lot of people don't even know I have that background because I don't talk about it very much. But it's interesting because I've talked to a lot of people in the industry in the last 6 or 8 months, and people who were very staunch, like, I'll never do things online. I've got to have the physical experience of touching the muscle and working them through and spotting them through and that whole thing, which I think depending upon what your training level is, there is still some need for that piece. I mean, if you're a serious athlete or you're bodybuilding or powerlifting, and sometimes having somebody physically there with you, or sports conditioning kinds of things, but probably for the general person, it's not quite as important. So it's interesting how people's attitudes have shifted from we'll never do that to I may never go back to the personal one-on-one, like being with people kind of thing.
Absolutely, and you're so right. It is very specific to what kind of what part of the industry you're in. I'm working with high performing females who are busy as hell all day, every day. They're sitting down. They're now transitioned to a remote, or they may be going into the office, and they're just sitting down all day. They're exhausted. They're taking care of everybody and neglecting themselves, and they just need to kind of recalibrate. Right, so it's a different kind of influence. It's more mental, emotional work that we do, which is ironic because as a personal trainer, as a strength coach, like you would think it's all physical. And you and I spoke about this before. I mean, the physical part is almost like it's the last part of our training programs, really, that we access. I mean, we're trying to create a sense of balance in these people's lives, and trying to empower them to just be more and do more for themselves, and really center themselves, put themselves in the center of their lives. Because as women, it's almost like we're conditioned to take care of everybody around us, but we forget about ourselves.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you used the word shift. People are using the P word, which I don't use, right? The pivot word. I think it's bigger than that, right? It is about shifting. It's about looking at, because what you didn't pivot, right? Pivot, to me, you're still staying like within a 3-foot radius of where you are. You've completely shifted what you're doing from an in-person to an online kind of thing. So I love that you use that. The other thing that struck me when you were talking about this is the mental part, right? It's interesting. People think, even with what I do, right, with business coaching and consulting, oh, it's all about technique. It's all about strategy. It's all about those things. Probably 80% of what we do is mental, right? It's mindset. It's getting your head right. It's thinking about things differently, because once you get that situated, there's pretty much nothing that's going to stop you, right? But if you don't get your head right, so how do you transition sort of what you do from that physical into the mental and everything but the physical?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. It's tough because a lot of people, especially when they just starting out, like they have a different they what they think they need is not what actually they need. I mean, that's for all of us, right? We can all say the same. Oh, I know what I need, but like in reality, it's like, oh, okay, what we actually need is uncomfortable. And so kind of we're programmed, we're wired to think through comfort, and when it comes to the discomfort, that comes with reaching out for help and support, and hello, that's why we exist, right? So how do I transition? Well, I mean, if someone comes to me and says, Sam, I want to lose weight, and I want to get stronger and just have more energy throughout my day. I as my role on the surface, I create strength training programs for our clients. I create programs in nutrition that promote a clean eating, and just consuming foods that are going to make you feel good, right? So that's the physical part of the job. But then as the relationship grows with the client, that's when we're able to get a little deeper, and I'm able to kind of track their patterns. I'm able to ask thought-provoking questions that kind of open up the door to a different kind of conversation and lead us down that path of discomfort, but in a good and healthy way, because as that phrase goes, comfort zone is a very nice place, but nothing ever grows there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all in the communication, the conversation, and then being vulnerable with one another. They come to us for help, but at the same time, one of the most powerful things I've learned recently is that so much strength comes through vulnerability, and just letting your clients know you're human just like them. Let them see you mess up, and it actually makes you feel more connected to them.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting, the whole vulnerability thing. I think we all struggle as business owners with that piece, right? We're supposed to have the answers, and we're supposed to look good, and we're supposed to, always have it together and on all of that. And I think you're absolutely right? When we show people, hey, I just got done with the workout and I'm sweaty and my hair's a mess and my face is red and, and all of that, or, hey, I screwed up, I messed this up, and or whatever it is, then people are like, oh, wow, it makes you just that much more relatable from the perspective of, wow, this perfect person, or this person with the perfect body, or, with the perfect business, or whatever it is, isn't so perfect after all. And it just makes you more relatable.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people don't remember what you say, but how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we want to feel connected to other human beings. So I could talk to you in science jargon with all these nice, sexy, big words. Right. What does it really mean to you?
Right. The client doesn't need to know what the mitochondria are doing in the cell. They want to know, what does it make my bicep look like, right? What is it? How do I get rid of this fat around my stomach? That kind of, Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Practical. I've just learned over the years, like, practical, easy to remember, sustainable tips. That's the way to any sort of behavior change. That's the way to just finding success. It's all in teaching people to find to appreciate the little steps, the process over the end result. And that's tough.
Yep. I'm going to shift gears here for a second. Tell me what the biggest challenge is running a business with your wife.
Whoa. I could just pick one.
You can talk for the next hour if you want about all of it.
The biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge for me, and she might say something else, is separating the two, right? Because we work for whatever hours, and that's just another thing, right? As it being an online business, we kind of work around the clock, and there's no 9 to 5, and number one, that was tough in the beginning because we kind of had no boundaries. But now we learned to create those times, right? Like, say, from this time to this time, this is work time, and outside of that, we can talk about work, but unless it's a work meeting, you're my wife now. You're my best friend now. This is time for whatever else. So I think it's that was the hardest. It's like work was just been is always on, right? Because we're always getting messages from clients, because there's really no set time to work out, right? People are asking questions all day, every day, and so it's kind of putting it to the side. And if I have I'm frustrated about something work related, I am known to kind of hold on to that and then have it internalize it for one, and then kind of just shut down. So I'm very I'm moody like that. But I mean, it's a work in progress.
And it will continue to be for as long as you work together. Former partner and I worked together for 15 years, and I totally hear you as far as it's easy to let work become all consuming and let that be all you ever talk about and then pretty soon that's all you have. And, that makes things pretty shallow. So I totally get it. So let me ask you this question. So I love asking these hard questions, especially when it comes to working with your spouse. But so at the end of the day, right, somebody has to make the hard decision somebody has to be, so we've got this thing and she says one thing and you say the other. How do you meet in the middle in the business, and who's the one who has like the final say of, I know we're going to disagree about this, but this is how we're going to do this?
Oh, quite simple. I make all the decisions.
Of course you do.
Well, oh man, how do we meet in the middle? This might seem like a unconventional answer, but sometimes there is no 50-50. Sometimes I'm making 100% of the decisions, and some other times Chris is stepping up and making up because I just don't know how to process things. You know what I mean? We have such completely different brains and operate so differently. I'm very direct. I'm kind of like spontaneous, and sometimes I don't process things very thoroughly. And she's the opposite, right? So she takes time to think things out. She weighs the pros and cons. Like, I'm kind of all gut and feeling, and I'm like, let's do it, or look, hell no, we're not doing that. And she's like, oh, but what about this? But what about that? And it irks me sometimes, right? Because it's like, just make a decision. But it actually works out in the most beautiful way. So to answer your question, I mean, sometimes I step up 100% and I'm like, this is what it's going to be. And other times, her reflection, her sense of kind of balance helps make the right decisions. And she steps in when she needs to. And that's kind of how it works. People say relationships are 50-50. I think that's bullshit.
I agree with you 100%. There's no such thing as balance if you look at it, whether it's in your relationship or whether it's in life, right? Or in your business. Yeah. There is no such thing as balance. If you look at it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, if you look at it from the big picture, then yeah, there's balance, right? But we're always out of balance. Right. Perfect example, right? Vacation. You're not working at all. You're totally laid back. I've got vacation coming up in June, so this is on my mind, right? I am totally like, I ain't working. Don't bother me. I'm not checking email. I'm not doing anything. My life is out of balance on this end, right? And there are times when, for example, if I'm running an event, which I have, one coming up, it's all work, right? And so there is no balance if you look at it individually as those things. But if you look at it over the course of the quarter or the year, then yeah, there is some balance that, and let's face it, I mean, sometimes it's 100-0, sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes it's 10-90. And you may get an occasion where there's a 60-40 or a 50-50 for like a nanosecond, but I'm 100%, I'm 100% behind you. I think the 50-50 thing is an illusion.
Yeah, absolutely. And we tell that to our clients. I know I was using the word balance before because it does resonate with so many people. Like, we all want the sense of balance, but I think what that really is we just want to feel kind of like at peace. Yeah. In a sense, right? Like, balance to me says like I have a sense of control. Balance to me means that I kind of understand where things are. Balance doesn't necessarily mean that everything is always the same. It just means that, all right, that's high that day, that's low that day. Okay, it's an understanding of where things are. Yeah. It's an awareness, and that's really what's most important. I mean, our clients, we do a weekly check-in, right? And sometimes the weeks are good, sometimes the weeks are bad, depending on what their individual goals are, and that's okay. And we keep reminding them, okay, great, you had a crappy week, that's okay. That's okay. And it's not like, oh, let's make up for it. No, let's just see what this week could hold for us, right? And then we kind of scale back. We have those kind of like the macro, micro, right? We do the macro session, right? Where we're just like, look at where we've been, look at what we have completed, and I keep their focus on the progress they've made, like from a weight loss perspective, from whatever their individual goals are, and that's how they're able to see. Oh, I see. When I look at it day by day, minute by minute, it kind of doesn't look so hot, right? But when I step back, well, I've learned so much. I've reflected so much. I've actually taken time to do things that I said I was going to do. Yeah. And it's a win right there. So it's all depending on what angle you're looking at the situation from.
Yep. Yeah, and I think we tend to look at things when we talk about balance, especially in the moment, right? So let's take it from the workout perspective. I walked yesterday. for an hour, and I don't even know, I did 4.25, so an hour and 15 minutes, whatever it took me. And in that hour and 15 minutes, there was no balance in my life. I was focused on one thing, finishing that stupid walk. Because if there's one thing I hate more in the world than cardio, I don't know what it is, right? Today, when I get up off out of my desk at 4:30 and feed the dogs and go to the gym, I'm going to lift weights. And that's what I'll do, right? It's chest, triceps, and shoulders day. And so, there is no balance because I'm not doing cardio. Actually, I'm not doing cardio today because I did so much of it this weekend. But it's that piece of like the balance comes over time, not in the moment. And I think that's the way that, we have to look at things. So I love that analogy. So let's talk about for a second, so two women, you guys are married and you're running a business. Have you had any backlash or anybody who's had any negative reactions from people?
We've been so fortunate to have both on both sides such supportive families that we actually feel like a minority within our community. We've been in such a supportive environment. And we realize how important that environment is, right? And so that's why we created that for our clients, and we create the expectation too. For anyone, let's say in the situation where we had the gym, it's easier to kind of conceptualize when you have a physical space, like everything that when you walked into the gym, you knew that the gym was operated by a lesbian couple. You knew that there's no hate, no discrimination, no nothing tolerated in that place. I mean, if there's a little, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but the little bathroom signs, it was like, where it's like half skirt, half like whatever, and that says whichever at the bottom of it. That was on our bathroom. Like everyone knew that, like, come as you are. This is the environment that we want to create for everyone, because we know, although our family is supportive. I mean, I've faced a lot of discrimination growing up, being a Hispanic woman, being a lesbian Hispanic woman. I mean, there's a lot of things, and however, despite this discrimination, it has never slowed me down. It has never slowed me down. I've never played into the victim, anything like that. If anything, it has helped me. It has helped me say, okay, well, these are the people that I don't want to do business with or spend time with. I mean, we are the average of the 5 people we hang out with, right? So it's a time, take that on a macro scale. Like, who are you associating with? Who do you put energy into? Like, there's stuff that I just rather leave to the side, and that I keep my focus on the people that love and support me and create the environment that they have created for me for other people.
Yeah. So how have you gotten past and beyond, right, the discrimination? I mean, whether it was because you're lesbian, whether it's because you're, minority of any kind, how do you, because you have this sort of, you're a lot like me, right? You just kind of take things off and do whatever, but how do you get beyond the hurt of, the feelings that you have, because it goes way beyond hurt, but when you felt that in your life, how have you moved forward from that and not, dwelled on, oh my gosh, I just lost a client, or I just, had this really shitty experience because I'm, whatever, pick one, right?
I mean, I'm a human being. I do feel hurt. I do feel anger and sadness, and, I have my moments where, I let it, I express the emotions associated with the situation. But how do I get past it? I mean, there comes a point, something inside me, I don't really know how to pinpoint it, but there's something inside me say, Sam, you're made for more. There's no, you've had your time with expressing these emotions. It's time for you to level up now. Right? It doesn't serve you. And that's something I always ask myself. Does this feeling serve me? Does this situation serve me? Does this person serve me? Will it help me create and be better and be bigger and be wiser and stronger? And if the answer is no, then all right, like, I'm turning my back, and I'm moving towards things that do move me and light me up inside. Because I mean, Diane, life is so short. Life is so short, and we blink and it's 2025.
Right.
So I recognize that we can't hold on to this whether it's guilt or whether it's resentment. We can't hold on to these things because I mean, and these are obviously feelings that I feel a lot, but we can't hold on to these things forever because you can't let it define us. We're bigger than that stuff. And it's a lot of self-talk, it's coaching, it's a lot of forgiveness too, you know. 'Cause if we're carrying things with us every single day, I mean, it's only ultimately going to slow us down, not the people that we are feeling those things towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. I breathe that piece in about the forgiveness piece, right? Because I think sometimes we forget about that, right? It's so easy to hold a grudge. It's so easy to be angry. It's so easy to have, this hatred, if you will, right? Well, but in our community, we want to be accepted, right? We want that inclusion. We want that feeling of community, and yet sometimes we are the first ones to hate back. You know what I mean? Instead of having that forgiveness aspect of, and look, it doesn't mean you don't forgive for the other person, you forgive for yourself, right? And it doesn't mean that you forget what happened. It means that you learn from it and move forward. But that piece of, I love that you said that, right? That forgiveness piece, I think is so important.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm an advocate I'm a huge doer, right? So if you want to feel a certain way, or if you want to be a part of a certain community and you haven't found it, create it. Like it to me, it's I mean, obviously easier said than done, but for me, that's what we're trying to create here. Is an inclusive community focused on growth. Everything else, those three pillars that you talk about, that's it. That's what we're trying to do here. And no matter how big or how small, how big it gets or how small it remains, it's perfect. It fuels me, it feeds me, and I only hope that we continue to provide the value and the support and encouragement for all the women we provide.
Yeah, I love that. So you said a few minutes ago, and I want to go back to, you made the comment that sometimes you feel like the minority in our community. Talk a little bit more about what you meant by that and how you deal with that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I don't know many other women who are in business with their, spouse. Well, they're lesbian women that are in business with their spouse that, let's just leave it at that first, right? Whether it be same-sex marriage or not, I mean, just that is difficult in itself, and that is a minority if you kind of look at our whole society. So that's kind of how I feel that we're a little bit of a minority, and then me personally in this world, right? Like as just a woman, period, in business. All the books I read, now thinking about it, like all my mentors were in books, right? And they were all these wealthy white men that have just made lots of money, and I'm reading it, and it hit me like not too long ago. Not because to me, humans are humans, right? But at the same time, I had to step back and say, oh my goodness, like, wow, like I am different from them. I am different from them as much as I'm not. I am very different from them, and I think differently as a woman, a Hispanic woman, a lesbian Hispanic woman. Like it just, but at the same time, it's very, I don't know. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, I love asking this question. I talk about this a lot. So do you feel like inside of the queer community, do you feel included, or do you feel like you're sort of like not quite in the in crowd of the sort of niches that we tend to build in those little kind of cliques, as I call them, inside the community?
You know, that's a good question. I feel, I can tell you this. I can tell you this. When I go to, I mean, because we have a home in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, which is a neighborhood that's very, very LGBT, or very queer friendly, extremely queer friendly. And when I'm there, I feel included. I feel at home, right? When I go to the Pride parades, I feel included. I'm excited. I'm like, these are my people, you know? When I go to just different neighborhoods that promote, when I see the flags, right? I get excited, right? Like, yes, that's me. I'm with my people. But as far as my day-to-day interactions, my day-to-day who I do business with, it's very much black and white. It's very much separate, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I mean, I feel like it's part of the industry I'm in. I feel like it's part of just who I may attract towards me. I now thinking about it, who we attract towards us could be, it could be a lot of kind of mental desires, right? Like, we attract who we ultimately want to become, or we attract what the voids that we might want to fill within us, things like that. And I haven't really done too much kind of deep dive on that for myself, but it is ultimately, it's kind of separated for the most part.
It's interesting, and I love talking about that piece, because I think sometimes in the community we sort of segment ourselves, right? Go to a networking event or a chamber event, and we have a tendency to have the gay men in one place and the lesbians in the other, and the trans people over here and the black people over here, and that inclusion piece for me, that's important, right? That's something that I really want to delve into and work on a little bit more. And it was interesting. Somebody I was talking to, I think it was last week, said, when I said, how do we do that? His comment was, well, it's up to us to start to go into those other groups, right? Into the groups that we don't identify as, and start to make that kind of inroad sort of thing, which was an interesting thing. So, Sammy, what's the best business advice either that you've ever gotten or that you want to leave people with?
Business advice. I look at business advice and life advice as very much connected, so I'm going to go with more the life advice because you can apply it, right? The best life advice would be to to lead with love. To lead with love. And this is what I mean by that. When I started getting into business, I was very cold, right? Because that's what I thought I had to be, right? Remove all emotion from any negotiations or this or that, or, and that's just kind of what I perceived from what I read or movies or whatever the case was. But the more I started tapping into me and the way that I personally operate, the more I realized that that's not me. That's not me, but I can still be a successful business person, right? And still pour love and compassion into what I do. So when I was telling this to someone, actually, they were like, "Yeah, well, you're a compassionate leader. You must continue to lead with love." And that kind of just stayed in my head. I'm like, yeah, I can lead with love. It sounds silly because it's like, yeah, anyone can lead with love, but it's like, to me, that the two things are just like, nope, you can't. You can't do that. And so kind of going back to what we were saying before about like being vulnerable and open with your clients, I mean, that is the key to really building long-lasting relationships. Anything that's real, whether it be real as in like we've been friends for 30 years, or real like we just know each other for an hour, but like I've had a deeper connection with you than I've had with those people I've known for 30 years, you know what I mean? So if we lead with love, you can make an impact, you can make a change, you can leave a legacy, and you will be felt for years and years and years, because that is love. Love really sounds so cliche, but love is really the answer to everything.
This is interesting. I see so much of like my younger self in some of the things that you're saying, which is just really refreshing for me because we do have very similar backgrounds. But what's interesting to me is this piece of, you know, well, what I now know is you take yourself everywhere you go, right? But we have this, I had, like you, this tendency when I first got started to think, well, business is business. And the others, I used to say business is business and bullshit is bullshit, right? But it was that separation. Like I could leave myself at the door, magically, like strip down at the door, put on my business attire, and now I'm Diane, the business person. And when I walk out the door tonight, I can take off my business attire and put on Diane, the person.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we do that because we think it's the right thing. I think sometimes we do it. I did it. Let me just speak for me. I did it because I thought I had to be somebody else. I was trying to model a white man, right? Business owner, older gentleman who was a mentor of mine. And I thought, well, if I just model him, I knew I couldn't copy him, right? But I thought if I can model him, because he's ultra successful and he's making all this money and he's got all these clients and he's doing all these things that I wanted to do, right? That I could be that would magically come to me. And what I found out, especially after, and part of the reason I did it is because that's who he wanted me to be in his business. And I was working with him for a long time. And so when I left working with him, it was like, wait a minute, right? It was like taking a shower like 100 times, but it was this piece of, oh my gosh, that's so not who I am. It's so not who I want to be. It's so not what I want to be in life, let alone in business. And it took me some time to really like shed that, if you will, right? To sort of molt that skin off and find that place of, who is Diane inside of business now? And I think it's refreshing for me. I don't know how old you are, but I know you're way younger than me, that somebody that's your age has that wisdom, because it really is wisdom. It's not knowledge. It's wisdom. It's this wise sense of, yeah, I can just be me and, like it, love it, leave it, whatever, but you don't have to like it. You don't have to do business with me, but this is who I am. And this is how I'm going to lead. This is how I'm going to run my business. And this is what I want to come out as. This is what I want to come across as in life and in business. And the two don't have to be separate. So I think that's some great wisdom there.
Yeah. And it's scary, right? It's scary because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I see, all right, I'm modeling these men, right? I'm modeling these men, so this is how it should be. So my expectation at the time is this is how everybody else expects me to be.
Right.
So that made sense, all right? So just be that way. But then it would itch at me. I would see things that I actually wanted to do, or felt ways, like I wanted to sit a certain way or express just little things that actually make a huge impact. I'll give you another example. I was at a conference. This was years ago. It just popped into my brain, and it was kind of a professional conference, and everybody's sitting in their chairs, and I'm like squiggling in my chair. I'm like, oh man, like in my head, I'm like, I want to stand, I want to stretch, I want to just little things. And I saw this guy off to the corner, and he was doing some like stretches on the side, and he was in the back, doing his own thing. But like initially I was like, my goodness, that's so unprofessional. But then I was like, that's brilliant. This guy is doing him, he's expressing himself while being here amongst everyone. That's not to say he's not paying attention. And then I started to question why do I think that's so unprofessional? And then I kept asking the why, and I finally got to, it's all bullshit. The guy is listening, he's asking great questions, he's just doing his own thing on the side. And I can too. I can express myself however, you could take that little example and, blow it up. I can express myself however I want to. I can be me while still being a business person.
Right.
And that takes a while. But yeah, it certainly does take a lot of reflection. It takes a sense of wisdom too, right? And bravery and courage to be able to step into yourself unapologetically and yeah, still be scared shitless, but still say, you know what, take me as I am. If you don't want to do business with me, that's great. That's fine. That's not a reflection on me. You know, that's, I'm going to attract the people who I'm going to attract based off of what I'm putting out there.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that for a second, because I think so many people have a hard time with that piece because they're afraid that, oh my gosh, right? If I don't want to repel anybody, I want everybody, right? I want everybody to want to do business with me. When in fact, no, you don't. There are certain people you don't want to do business with. I often say it's either a yes, a strong yes, or it's a hell no, right? So do you want the person, let's just take it in the queer community. Do you want somebody who tolerates you? I don't want to do business with that person, right? I know for a fact that in the last year, I've lost at least 2 major deals because they knew that I was gay. One of them used the word lifestyle. The other one has simply just will not respond to me. And I know it's because I started this podcast and they've seen it on my LinkedIn feed. They've seen it on my Facebook page. And it's like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Yep. There was a time when that would have like driven me crazy, but how do you get to that point where you're okay in your mind with, I'm not going to serve every single person, and it's okay to have this target client that I'm going after, and it's okay for some people to say that's not the person I want to work with. How do you be okay with that?
Yep. And I want to start by saying that was me. I was like, open the door, everybody and anybody. And then you experience a little bit of everybody and anybody, and something happens. Something happened to me, and I felt lost. I felt a little lost. And so I think we have to do some soul searching within us to really say, this is who I am. First and foremost, before we start pitching to whoever, we have to do some work with us. We have to sell to ourselves first. Sell to yourself first. Understand who you are, and understand how energy works, right? Because what I'm putting out is what I'm getting right back. And if I'm putting out confused and help me, I'll take anybody, I'm only going to get that and all the problems that comes with it, right? The more secure you are in yourself, the more confident and even if you're not confident, it's okay, but at least an understanding, a mindfulness, an awareness of you, you're going to attract that back to yourself, whatever that looks like for you.
Yep.
And I think I'm certainly not there. I feel like we're always evolving as people. So our relationships evolve, our engagements evolve, who we attract evolves as well, as it should, right? That's what makes life fun and interesting. But yeah, I mean, I certainly feel like I'm in that groove, where I'm stepping into that power.
Yeah, that's great. And it's interesting what you were talking about a little bit ago, as far as like the judgment piece. I think we have to really check in with, not only do we judge ourselves, right, but we judge other people. It's that piece of when you were talking about, leading with love. We're so hard on ourselves, and yet we're also hard on other people. But I think sometimes that judgment that we have of ourselves is the thing that holds us back more than the fact that we judge other people. Right. It's that, what's he doing over there? Why is he doing that? And then that piece of, wait a minute, why am I judging the fact that he's got the chutzpah enough to stand up when he needs to stand up, and I'm sitting here squirming in my seat because I want to stand up, but I don't have the guts to do it, right? I don't want to look like I'm standing against the wall, or that I'm different, or that, I have this ability to be me inside of this group of, 100 people sitting in this room, or 200, however many there were, who are conforming, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's all projections.
Yep.
We're constantly projecting ourselves in and through other people.
Yep.
And so this is something that I'm kind of learning now, is that, like, if I'm angry at you, or what I think I'm angry at you, I'm really not angry at you. I'm angry at myself for something that happened between you and I. It ultimately comes back to us at the end of the day. And that's a concept that I'm just like, wait, what? Like, wait, we are literally just projecting ourselves all the time. But yeah, it's so interesting. I love the way the mind works. I love it. It is frustrating as hell sometimes.
It is mostly with ourselves. Well, Sammy, this has been amazing. You have given, this is one where I would say to people, go back and listen. There's been some real wisdom that's come from Sammy in the little bit of time that we've been together. And I think if you go back and listen, you'll find some real tidbits that you can move forward with. But give folks your contact information, because obviously, as an online business with nutrition and fitness and all the things that health and all the things that you're doing, we've got listeners from not only in the United States, but around the world who certainly have the ability now to work with you. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to?
Sure. Just send me an email, info@strengthrewired.com. I answer all my emails myself, and I try to stay on top of them. So, I try to answer everything within at least 72 hours. So shoot me an email. I will get back to you directly. And Diane, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for everything you do, everything you represent. It's been an honor to be here chatting with you.
Thank you. So also a website, right, is strengthrewired.com?
Strengthrewired.com, yeah. Sure.
Facebook, Instagram.
Everything, the handles for both Facebook and Instagram are Strength Rewired.
Okay, perfect. So I like to give people lots of options so that they can find you. But so you got the website, you've got all the social and the email address. And so, Sammy, this has been an honor. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. And like I said, there's been some real wisdom here on the podcast. So a couple just really quick reminders. Again, this has been the Queer Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Diane Conklin. It's been a lot of fun today with Sammie Baker from Strength Rewired. If you're interested in the free report, the 3 keys to growing your business fast, getting more clients and making more money, check that out at queerprofits.com. As always, you can find the podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts or watch them. We do have a YouTube channel, and we are on Facebook at Queer Profits Podcast, and there is a business group called Queer Profits. If you want to join that, we're talking about all sorts of business things. I share a lot of tidbits and things there. So again, until next time, make it a great day, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks, everybody.